statement from the public from Corey Harden. We'll start there.
Corey, please go up to the mic at the end of the table. And just state your name for the record.
Yeah. Good morning. Just came to talk about the maintenance fund. And we all know how much effort it took to get the 2% fund going and to add the maintenance fund. And so it's kind of disappointing that 1 year after the maintenance fund is approved, there's still no application form for groups that want to do maintenance. And the county apparently hasn't set up the stewardship grant system to issue grants and keep the nonprofits accountable. And it seems the county didn't advertise for the stewardship grants by the August 1st deadline because there's no maintenance money available right now. And I understand that the money is set aside for consultants to do archaeological plans. So there's just several questions I hope you folks will address today. One is, what is an archaeological plan? And how is that different from an archaeological survey or a site plan? And I also wonder if maintenance funds can be used for archaeological plans and also for boundary stakeouts and burial treatment plans, which are listed in the accounting report. Those are all good things, but just wonder if the maintenance fund should be used for that. And I also wondered how local communities are getting a say in the planning for their special places, how the local community is involved. And also I wonder if this commission gets a say in how maintenance money is spent, like which sites get priority and which maintenance actions get priority. And on page 5 of last meeting's minutes, I noticed that there's a statement by Mr. Van Bergen that if the county chooses, they can use maintenance monies for in-house projects relating to management. And I kind of looked through the charter and the bill they created, the maintenance fund, I didn't exactly see that, so I hope that that can be clarified today. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, do we have any other statements from the public on agenda items? No? Okay, can I hear a motion for approval of our minutes from the September 9th, 2013 regular meeting?
I move to approve the minutes.
Okay, John, do we have a second on approval of the minutes from our last meeting?
second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will jump right into written communications. So Alex, how do we handle this? Because I think we'll be having some discussion on these. Do we accept and file and then go back and discuss?
Yes, that's what we need to do.
Okay. So let me take them individually. Communication number 13-046. Do I hear a motion to accept and file?
I do.
A second?
Second.
Okay. Do we have to vote in favor of accepting and filing?
You just go all in favor.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, communication number 13-047. Can I hear a motion to accept and file?
I move to accept the file.
A second, Steve? Okay, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So now we are open to discussion on those written communications. The first one was from Debbie Peck to Kim Van Bergen, property manager, about the PONC maintenance fund. And I believe we do have a response from that. And I got a revised copy today. You all have a revised copy?
Yes.
Okay. Let's take just a minute then to read through the revised, because I don't know what the changes are from the one we've already.
Only change was to the second question, number 1 on page 2, which is a clarification from regarding the question. The question was for the Kingman Trust property, was the parking lot built on property acquired with the 2% land fund monies, and the response was revised to the 2% funds were used as council found that the state purpose of the acquisition was for Kipapa Park. There's gravel placed for dust control on some portions of the parcel. See above, this area provides access for Lower Beach Park as well as Kipapa Trail. So I think the information I was trying to put forward is that although the land was acquired with parking already there, the presence of the parking area is to enhance the public's use and enjoyment of the surrounding area, and that to me is a reasonable, expenditure as it relates to that parcel. Yes.
So the gravel was just placed over an existing parking area?
And Ken can elaborate more, but my understanding was the original area was kind of an open, dusty area.
Actually, the original, where the gravel dust control is now was mired in trees, plants, and garbage.
But it was a place where people parked already?
People park adjacent to it. There is an easement, it's an access easement for a county utility that's quite wide, maybe 35 yards wide, and that's been used for parking for at least 10 years since I've been here. And so this gravel area is next to that, so it did end up expanding that, so it is being used for access to Kipapa Trail and Mahaloa Park, as Bill just said, but it wasn't an existing parking area, it was kind of a mess actually. But part of the purchase agreement called for them to put in dust control measures, so they did.
Okay, any other questions on the responses that we got? I think this is something that we really want to talk about, but I would personally feel more comfortable to talk about it when Debbie is here and when we have Parks and Recreation representative here.
We
do have. Oh, all right.
I mean, not to put Clayton on the spot.
But you have that.
We actually, I think, will put you on the spot.
Can we
Yes, Wilma?
Before we discuss it, I just had a personal question. I realize all of us personally are interested, and the commission as a whole is interested, but does the maintenance fund actually come under the jurisdiction of this commission?
I think that's part of what we need to clarify.
Okay.
I'm seeing Ken shaking his head no,
No.
although I think we certainly have some vested interest.
And we have
in
interest.
the maintenance fund. Steve, did you have a question?
Yeah, it might be good to take it question by question and to see the responses, because not all of them ask for the Park and Recreation. The first one says, how does the corporation concentrate on this? So can we take it issue by issue?
Certainly. Is that all right with everyone to take it issue by issue?
And some of the answers are real obvious. We can skip on, like the ones that need deliberation on, like the parking area and stuff. But I think we can get through this pretty fast.
Okay. I'm going to let you lead that discussion.
Do you want?
Yes, I'm delegating that one to you.
Sure, we all can read. So number one, the audience doesn't have a copy of this, right? Do you have a copy of this?
What do you
I'll read it. So the question,
Yeah,
the question was number one, and this question came from, I think, a commissioner.
Yes.
Debbie had,
All
yeah.
these questions were from Debbie.
Yeah, and she sits on the commission and she's absent.
But they were following
They were from all of
our
us.
previous meeting. We asked her to please voice
Yeah,
some questions.
so this will maybe answer some of your questions too in your testimony, but the question number one was, as co-author of the Maintenance Fund Charter Amendment, the intent of publicizing the fund once per year and asking for application was to encourage and empower community groups to maintain and care for these properties. Although publicity would only be once per year, the intention was that community groups could apply at any time during the year, and they could also apply year after year. Can you confirm that this fund is being used as it was intended? And Ken, you did the response?
Bill did all the
Oh, Bill, okay, so I'll let you read the response.
You said, As it currently, and I'll just summarize, pursuant to the charter, PNR are responsible for management of the actual monies that have been deposited into this maintenance fund, the overseer of the deposits and the financials through Department of Finance. So that's how we have both Nancy's involvement as well as Clayton's involvement with their respective responsibilities as it relates to the fund proceeds. So here, at this time, I'll let Clayton, you can elaborate. Pretty much, my response was that, majority of the monies, although they're sitting in an account, they have been allocated for particular purposes and.
Yeah, we're, there's a lot of cultural sites on the properties, and we gotta take an inventory and identify of the
Mr.
cultural
Hammond, could you
sites.
sit up here so we can all be looking at you? Turning our heads to the side.
Yes. And, well, anyway, again, there's cultural sites on a lot of the properties that, were purchased, and so we need to take that inventory of those cultural sites, and we're gonna hire, professional services to do them, but the cost for those cultural sites, again, it may vary because we don't know the amount that is out there, and they go, site by site according to what we get charged, so, we expect to fully use what was there originally. I think it was like 200-something thousand, I believe, so, those will definitely be used up in those professional services as we look at as we do the cultural surveys and studies.
And could you quickly address the comment we got this morning from Corey Harden about the difference between archaeological plan, how does that vary from an archaeological survey or site plan, and what is these plans that you're talking about right now? Where?
Well, again, it was, more a general thing. It wasn't specifically, just archaeological site plans or what have you. So we're doing the, we're going to go out and do those studies and identify what's out there. We don't know what's there right now. So we got to go out and identify what's on and do an inventory of what's, what's out there on those lands currently.
Can I add something? So, just to kind of put it in reference, we recently did an archaeological survey, and just to answer your question, it's when they go out and survey the area to see what is actually there. You did one at Kawa last year, and it cost about $52,000. And even though Kawa is 700-something acres, the total acquisitions, the area they surveyed all of it, but it was real dense, and this is, not, kind of in the core area by the bay. And so based on just, fairly recent past plans that we've purchased, that 218 can go pretty fast. Because you look at Kyle-Lennon, for instance, that's 212 acres and extremely dense, as all the people know in archaeological stuff. Before, we want to make sure we knew what was there before people were hired to go in and do things, right? Because it's very important to keep these things. So you have the survey, and then after that you actually have the plan to preservation plan, where you can't preserve something until you know it's there. So those are kind of the differentiations between those two.
Go ahead, you first.
No, Steve! You got the lay, you go first.
Oh, that makes me special.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, Ken, can you answer this? Before the maintenance fund was started, we had archaeological surveys and studies and everything. Where did those funds come from, and which particular fund did it come from before there was a maintenance fund?
Well, there wasn't a whole lot done because money's been very tight for the last few years in the county, as you well know. But we were able to access, for the Kawa one, some money out of a CIP account that was set up for the Honuapu plan. About four years ago, we did a $300,000 park plan for Honuapu that was supposed to include Kawa. And because we had issues acquiring Kawa at the time, it took, as you guys well know, it took us almost 3 years to buy that property. The Honuapu plan was done, but the Kawa portion wasn't done because we didn't own it yet. So there was some money left in that fund that we were able to access for the Kawa archaeological survey, but we're kind of lucky on that there's actually money available, because typically there's not a lot of money for that kind of thing.
Gail?
Yeah,
just a quick comment or question with regard to Kyalena. There's Dives has done a really intensive archaeological report there, which is part of the application, and then it went to the county and state. So there's a lot of existing information already on Kyalena, and I know for a fact that the community wanted to be really involved in doing any more assessments that are down there, because the community holds a lot of the knowledge with regard to the resources, and wanted to engage the middle school and other kids that are involved in resource assessments already, and we've have access to GPS equipment, all sorts of stuff. So I know that the Kohalas community was hope and intention was that they would get to do a lot of the assessments, because there's that expertise there, and we partner regularly, you know, with the National Park Service and stuff. So I don't know if those monies are necessarily dedicated for Kyalena, but I would say, if they are, and it sounds like there's needs all over the island, then maybe take a pause, because I know that, or find a way, let's find a way to work with it, to power the community, because it's one thing to have the experts come in, and they've done a lot of work there. Bishop Estates has done a lot of work there. But the piece that we're missing, which I know you understand with regard to stewardship, because you work in Parks and Recs, is the community involvement, so we get the long-term users, you know, and all that ownership. And if we involve them in the assessments up front, and not all communities are going to want to be involved, I suppose, in all that. But I know in North Kohala they do. So I can only speak for that district knowingly, but I would guess, I hope that not all those monies are going for experts to come in from the outside and do the assessments, because the local community really wanted to be involved in doing that. Yeah, just a thought.
Yes. Okay, and moving on to number 2, it says that the charter amendment stipulates that the maintenance fund grants application will be publicized as of August of each year. Why wasn't the availability of maintenance fund publicized as the charter calls for, so that community groups could apply for this year, 2013? And the answer was that PNR said all funds accounted for, so no stewardship grants available. On our report as of July 1st, there was 218,953, but we hadn't expended anything yet. But you already had contracts.
Well, we did like about, I think, 35,000 of that for Kipapa Park, you know, so, and on top of that, you know, we had into consideration, like Ken said earlier, the contracts for the studies to be done, the archaeological studies to be done. So, you know, that being said, the $200,000+ that was there at that time, you know, was considered all, you know, spent and being used for that particular, you know, for that particular reason, and on the part of the funds being expanded. So we didn't put out a contract at that time to advertise for the use of the funds for the public.
Yeah, I think I wish the person that asked the question was here, but I think what she's getting at was, you know, we have 218,000 at that time, and did you have an idea of how much surveys or how many studies were going to be done, and what portion, could some of it have been used to start a pilot fund? Because as of date, I think we spent, looks like, if I do the math, about $40,000. And the remaining of the fund right now is 475, 432. And so that will accumulate to next year, and we don't, so, you know, if we're gonna say that it's accounted for, it's easy to say it's accounted for, but, you know, if we had like, kind of like estimated costs of surveys and stuff attached to each land, and how much would be available for that, I think the public would be more willing to accept that, the statement that funds are accounted for, because it's one thing to make a statement, but then it's say, well, there's no funds, all of them is going to be used for, you know, things. So I think what they really want to know is what percentage of the fund is going to be used towards that kind of studies.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You know, I cannot point out the detail right now, But, you know, like I said, in those studies, each site that they have, you know, is being, you get charged for each particular site. So we don't know until the study is actually, you know, in the process according to how much we're gonna be charged out for. So, you know, when we do the study and the survey and there's, you know, sites to be determined, you know, we're gonna get charged per site that is found there. So, you know, we don't have that exact number.
So is there a way, though, to involve community groups when you put out an RFP or however you advertise for this? Because clearly, as Gail stated, there are some community groups that would like to be involved in the study. So is there a mechanism?
That's almost a procurement question.
That's a procurement question, that's right, so. Yes,
And we have a procurement chief over here.
Oh, Nancy,
Well,
did you want?
Well, I was just going to make a comment, which isn't so much, just because a professional who's, you know, has experience in doing preservation plans and presenting them, you know, and checking with the State Historic Preservation Division to make sure that everything that's going to go forward is, you know, is legal and in compliance with the state historic rules and laws and so forth. Just because I think it's appropriate to use a professional for that wouldn't mean that the local community wouldn't be consulted and be a part of that planning process.
yeah, and I believe that is true too.
I'd like to make a comment on that. I concur, and I think oftentimes it's, hopefully they do that kind of courtesy involvement. I think my point was that we have the capacity in North Kohala to do a lot of that on our own, and the idea was to perhaps empower local users and also fund them to be able to do that, kind of that local economy, local capacity building for the long time for stewardship. And I know as someone who worked on this maintenance fund to get it passed too, that was the intention behind that, was to empower local communities to build their capacity on multiple levels to be able to help steward these lands. And there are places, probably in Ka'u and certainly in Kohala, where we have archaeologists, we have engineers, we have scientists that are able to do this. And so if we were empowered a little bit with some funding to do so, and also, and because there's the connections back into local schools that the consultants don't have, that I think it's a really big win-win. And I actually think that we're all on the same page with that. It's just how we work out the details at this point.
Okay, number 3 is just a statement of the charter amendment, and number 4 is a simple question: is there an application form that the community can use as per A above? The answer is PNR is in the process of developing stewardship grant system. So the question would be, how far along are we in the system, and you know, do we have to wait till next year, August, to put out some stewardship grants? Because we have $475,000, and I sure hope we're not going to spend all of it on archaeological surveys and that kind of stuff. So I think that it is I think the public is waiting to hear, and community groups have been waiting. I think it's an exciting part of the PONC fund to do this maintenance fund and to involve groups, local groups working on their community properties. So how far along are you in developing the stewardship grant?
We do have a draft already on the grant application, and so we're gonna, you know, review that and make sure that we put out a good application that is out there. I believe we will go out for sure next year and get, you know, grants out to the public. So, you know, that is the intent of and the position of the department right now.
And this question is for Corporation Council. Does it have to be in August? Does it have to wait till every August, or can it be done as soon as the stewardship grant program is ready to go out? Can it be done mid-year, say, like in February?
You know, right off the top of my head, I would have to look into it.
I can tell you what the intention was on that. The intention was that it be at least once a year. So there was like a benchmark that would get done. But I don't think it was ever meant to prevent any kind of creative, you know, disbursement with the communities to do good work.
Okay, and then, number 5 was thank you for posting the, deposit and expenditures and the balance on the, PONC site, and that's available to the public, so people will be looking at it and say, wow, we have $500,000 in there. So number 6, were funds prorated and deposited in the maintenance fund from the day after the election, 2012 is set forth, and then you answered, or Nancy answered.
Well, it was a discussion, but
Bill answered, but I believe the way the charter amendment read, that it was the first quarter of the year, and so collection allocation for this maintenance fund began January 1st, and the first deposit was made then right after the end of the quarter, and then we've made subsequent deposits.
And I think we went through the other questions. For the Kingman Trust property, was a parking lot built? Can you answer that? And specifically, can the 2% land fund money be used to acquire lands that will be used for parking lots? That was a specific, and the answer was that 2% money can be used to enhance the public use of a particular site. And as with the justification in the Kingman property, like you described.
The Kingman property was a little bit different, and most of you know this because you've been on the commission long enough, but just for those that maybe weren't here, just for 30-second summary, it was the first time we bought an open space property that actually had structures on it. I mean, a co-op, but that's different, right? Those were illegal structures, but they actually had residents on the property, and it was also the one, and it was actually purchased in a densely populated area. Everything else is very remote, Kyolena, co-op, Pa'o. So when we negotiated with the owner to purchase the property at the appraised value, we had asked them as part of the deal, at no cost to us, that they would clear the property. And so we had to put a plan to that, right? We can't just say clear it, then that's it. So we put a plan to it, and the plan called for the structures being torn down and completely taken out. It also called for the trees, all the albizia trees, and all the stuff that was there to be taken out. And it was called to put dust control measures down, so that's not just one big dust field, because it's very dry down in that part of the island. It doesn't rain much. And so part of the plan called for all three, and then grass was planted. And so they did that. They put grass in areas they're supposed to have grass. They planted, they took out all the trees. They left the monkey pot and a couple of kiawe trees. And then the burial plan was part of that as well. They started the burial plan on parcel 31. But on parcel 20, that area was just covered. It was flattened out and covered as part of their service to us, part of our agreement. Now, as it turned out, it has been used for overflow parking, because there was parking right next door to it. And as Bill pointed out earlier, that is a justifiable cause. But we didn't spend any money on that, right? We didn't spend money to do that. That was part of the owner's contribution to cleaning the land up, and it was a huge improvement.
I think that to clear it up, the 2% isn't specifically to buy land to do a parking lot, but of course if we buy several hundred acres of property, we want to designate where people will park. And we wouldn't want them driving all over the property and ruining the preservation property. So I think that it is not specifically for a parking lot, but I think a parking area and access would be part of the process of acquiring these properties too, because I think we have to limit the people. And we moved through this really good. And the last thing is, and this goes to the finance department, that the county council will pass a resolution to place covenants on all properties purchased with PONC funds. And the answer was the finance department is still working on this matter. So there's going to be a covenant put forward on every property.
Well, first of all, there has been covenants put on newly acquired acquisitions. Kyolena South had that covenant put into the deeds. And anything moving forward, obviously, is going to have that put in up front. And then we have to go through the process of re-recording deeds to ourselves. Basically, we have to grant a deed back to ourselves and add that language. And that's what's in process. But the language has been included in recent months. So
all of the current purchases, recent purchases since the enactment of this particular ordinance has incorporated that language into the deed conveyance. What's happening is the backlog is related to the properties that were previously purchased before the passage of this So there's, like I said, a backlog, and that is being, addressed and worked on. It's just not something that, is able to get that open.
Any other questions?
I guess a follow-up comment or question. I'm just wondering, since the RFPs haven't gone out for some of the properties on which is going to be ARPA done, I'm wondering if there's a way to still construct those RFPs so it allows the community to participate. I understand that's a procurement issue, but why do we have to go to private parties, I guess would be my question.
Let me just comment on this as I read the charter, and I have it right here in front of me. And the way it was written, I guess, maybe you guys didn't mean to write it this way, but it says by August 1st of each fiscal year. So basically, the fiscal year starts in July of every year. So we have 30 days to get that RFP out, or it's a dead issue until the following August. And I know when we talked about it in July, and we were reading this, and we weren't sure in 218, we knew a lot of it was going to go to some mark survey, maybe not every penny, but we had 30 days to figure that out. We couldn't advertise last year, because even though money was put in the fund, it wasn't August 1st already passed of the fiscal year. So we're just following, where I look at it, this is what it says. And so the thought was in July, well, we have to wait till next August. Now, if you're asking that we don't have to wait till next August, I guess I have to defer to Bill on that, because that's not how the charter reads.
Well, it says by, it doesn't say limited. The language isn't limiting, is it?
Very, it says by August 1st of each fiscal year. Well, the fiscal year starts July 1st. So by August 31st of that whole year.
So it could also be by January or February. It doesn't say and only by August.
No, at least by August, but it can be before.
Yeah, it could be
Yeah, it could be
any time, basically. I think they're just putting a timer out. You gotta at least do it by then, I think, was the intention.
But
And
the
that's
fiscal year starts July 1st. That's the fiscal year. It says of each fiscal year. So it starts July 1st, that's your starting point, and by August 1st.
That's right, so it could be also January or February. The deadline is, at least do something by August. I read a little more casually, I don't see any other limiting language in there.
And that's the case, that's
Yeah, I'm not
great.
an attorney, but.
That's,
What was that? I'll have to look into it.
Yeah, take some time to look at it, yeah.
And
But
then,
that would only apply for the RFPs if community groups were gonna work with the contracted services for the county, but shouldn't limit community groups being able to apply for and access funds anytime throughout the year, right?
that's what it's talking about. If you
Yeah,
read
that's
section
the
3, it's
difference.
specifically, this is all, it has nothing to do with RFPs or private professional services. This is strictly for community groups. Finance job, or my job, is to send out August 1st of each year solicitations for proposals. Fair and free to everybody to come in with their ideas, if there's funds available. If Park tells me can, there's funds available. We haven't spent it all. My only point is, and I'm not arguing, I wish it read differently.
You're
Wish it
giving your
said,
interpretation.
I wish it read it any time throughout the year. Finance could advertise. That would be a lot easier, because then it's a lot more flexible.
Yeah, I think
But what it
that's the
says is August 1st of each fiscal year, and the fiscal year starts July 1st. So it's saying we have a 30-day window each year to advertise for grants if money's available.
Wow, that's so not the intention, I can tell you.
That's how it reads, and so if we want to address that, we can. I wish it didn't read that way, it'd be easier for
I
us.
wonder, yeah, that's it. Yeah, it'd be interesting to get an official interpretation.
and then one final question, open question. Are these maintenance funds limited to community groups, or can the county PNR use it to maintain some of these acquisitions?
We can use some of the money to maintain, the acquisitions. But, it's for both actually.
Yeah.
Community groups and the Parks and Recreation team use as well too.
Yeah.
But we gotta follow the guidelines as they're in the charter as well.
Yeah, some of these properties are vacant, so maintaining, so it wouldn't be used to like put gravel on the parking area, stuff like that, or would that be called maintenance?
I think we're not to make new improvements on there, but we can do maintenance on it, on what's there already.
You just got a whole list right here, it's very straightforward. I mean, you could fix, mend, repair, servicing areas, so if there's an area that's damaged, you can fix it. But if there's areas like the trees, you chop them down and put a gravel in for a parking area. He's got it, it's all pretty much spelled out.
It'd be like wildfire mitigation, erosion
Yeah,
control, things like
burial
that.
plans.
I have a question with
Great.
regard.
Okay, cool.
So it sounds like there's a move to go forward with private party services. Is it, but there isn't necessarily a timeline. Is there any way that we could somehow look at writing the RFP so the communities can be involved, or even somehow make a offering? I mean, an offering. That's not the right
Well, for
word.
professional services, you have to be on the list. So
Oh,
by
so you
July
just-
1st every
You
year,
just axed out the whole community.
well, there's this county code, so we follow
Yeah,
it
no, I
forever.
get that, I understand the
And
legal
so we have
reasons why.
archaeologists
Yeah.
on file, we have surveyors on file, we have appraisers on file, I mean, whatever professional service category, you have to have your stuff in first, you know, you can put your stuff in later, but if a list were to go out today, like
No,
we're at
no,
RFP
I
today, we have to go out the
understand.
list we have today.
No, I understand, there's just a history, which I think some folks are aware of professional services being secured, and then not always folks are consulted, and there's a lot of heartbreak and concern about that. And that's why some sites, that's why you sometimes have to go back and review archaeological sites, so, well, maybe that's just another discussion, but I'm just wondering if isn't there a way to somehow involve the community more than just a consultational, because I know how archaeologists pick up the phone and call and they try to find a family member, whatever, but I know the community really wanted to be involved in assessing and involving the kids. I mean, we know where the descendants know where the burials are and all this stuff that hasn't been revealed in archaeological plans. So you're gonna get a much more detailed, I think, much more useful plan and survey if we can somehow involve the.
I think I can safely say, and I don't know, I don't want to speak for Clay, but that the Kylander groups, whatever we do up there, we'll be sure that you guys are part of it.
Partly, yeah.
Well, you've been real open about it. I'm just kind of speaking from an institutional perspective, I guess, on things.
I think Nancy has something.
Can I make a comment? I apologize, because I know I'm kind of like a part of the audience here, but I just think, you know, you're speaking to the Director of Parks and Recreation, so you're getting a hearing right here. He hears what some of your concerns are, and, you know, without regard to how, like, the professional is selected through procurement policies, then a contract comes out of that. There's a contractual relationship with the county, and that contract can certainly, gives Parks and Recreation the opportunity to address some of the very points you're making right now.
I think I was looking for economic empowerment of some of the folks that have skills locally and abilities to do this that aren't on those lists. And if we had grants, those people might have an opportunity through nonprofits and partnering with archaeologists and folks like the National Park Service to actually you know, be put to work locally, to work on the lands that they care and love about. And so I guess, I don't know how that might be worked out legally. Yeah, we're talking about two different, I guess, routes. Again, more the stewardship grant where they would have access to that versus the professional procurement. Because I mean, unless you had a clause in the RFP where you would ask the archaeologist to sublet, well, you couldn't do that, I guess, legally. You can't sublet on some of those because you have to be on the procurement list for professional services. Okay, well, I probably beat that horse to death, but maybe it's something that we can just all be aware of as we go down the road.
I would like to make one other comment, but one of our selection criteria when we rank these proposals is their community involvement. And so I think what we're hearing and seeing is pieces, the parcels are purchased, but the community is still not involved. But yet for us, it's a key criteria in evaluating these proposals. So there's
There's two different things.
I know there are two different things, but the public perception is still that they say that when the proposals come in, that the community wants and is able to be involved in these.
But there is community involvement. For instance, the Kipapa Park, we've had extensive involvement with the Kipapa family. It has to do with finance. Communities can be involved with co-op. We have a group down at co-op, the Napoleon. We have all kinds of community involvement on PONC purchases on several properties. It's when the finances come into it. So when you evaluate as a PONC commission, you should evaluate, is there a lot of public support for this land with public involvement? And you have, and as you should, and there has been public involvement, quite a bit actually. It's just when it comes to paying somebody to do it, that's a whole different criteria. So,
The distinction is, there's two completely separate sections in the charter. There's the section related to PONC and acquisition of PONC lands and the criteria and the creation of this group. And then there's another section related to the maintenance of the lands. And I think what Ken is referencing is when it comes to maintenance and where there's the paying out of funds, there's a process that needs to be, a legal process that needs to be followed. And I think that's what Ken's concern is. Otherwise, 10 of my best friends would be doing all the maintenance at all of the lands.
So I want to speak to that again. I'm your best friend, right?
For the record,
Well, you know what I mean. It's to ensure fairness and accountability and,
Well, that's exactly the reason why the stewardship grants need to be set up, because you spoke exactly to what we were trying to do, which was to build local economic capacity, because these groups have stepped forward majorly for decades in ensuring this. And who usually gets financed to deal with these lands? It's the professionals, and where do they get their information from though? The local people. Do those people ever get paid for caring for the lands for decades? No. Do they have the capacity, do they have the expertise to manage and to be part of this? They do. And so even though they're separated, I get the total legal separation, I get all that. And it's just the way the chart is written, it went under PNR, and perhaps in the long run this is all really good. But it's not a minor issue when we talk about it's just money. Because for long-term stewardship, we really want the communities involved. I mean, that's where it's going to be, because there's so much to do. And it's not just volunteer time. I mean, a lot of folks have done it for a long, long time. But they have the expertise, they have the capacity. There's no reason why we can't be also funding them. And obviously, we need to have a system set up so his 10 best friends don't get all the contracts around the house.
I'll have 20 best friends.
Are you 20 best friends? 21, put me on there. But, so I just want to speak to that piece, that the money does matter to these local groups, that we are trying to build a sustainable island here. So it is about building local economic capacity. And this would be one way of doing that. And we've asked people to step forward and do it, so let's help them do it.
I think we all agree.
I know, I should just shut
No,
up.
it's just a matter of getting involved. It's just a process.
I know, you guys are so patient to listen to it.
Yeah, we totally agree. I was just trying to point out to Carolyn that part of vetting properties and community involvement you should do because it works.
Yeah.
On the other side, just the Parks and Friends of the Park type people.
Absolutely.
But, we do want to empower groups, and we will, and I don't want to speak for everybody,
No.
but it's just, we got to get the process down, and that's where we're at, so. But we hear you loud and clear.
And I know everyone would be happy to volunteer their time to help you guys too, in addition to just sit here and criticize.
Perfect, thank you for coming, because you got kind of like a good perspective on how to proceed, and so we're looking forward to that grant request. And hearing no more comments, I'm going to turn the meeting back over to the chair.
Okay, we are to the Department of Finance report.
Thanks, Nancy. Thanks, Blake.
Thank you.
Nancy's running out.
Records, so you want to speak?
Thank you,
Come on,
Mr.
boss.
Obama.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. So, we are in the final stages of the present stage of the Kipapa burial plan. The contractor's finishing up his role that he was hired for, and it looks very, very good. I don't know if any of you guys, Enoch's probably been down there, I would imagine, because he lives in the area, but I wish I had pictures to show you before and after. They did a fabulous job across the 31 with the buffering of the burials, the trail, just everything. It came out really, really nice. So I really appreciate their efforts on that. And then there'll be some things we'll probably do in-house to finalize the plan. We still need to put up a sign, that the burial plan calls for, and plant some native plants in the burial sites, because the burial plan called for clearing out all invasive species out of the buffered areas. So a lot of the, what do you call it, puma trees, I think, and some other things were taken out for the most part. But other than that, it looks really good. On the acquisition side, we're still working diligently on Leaky Bay. That was, a couple years into this thing. As all of you know, there's a violation on the property that kept us from moving forward with the subdivision. But I am under contract with a surveyor. I tried to go with a firm that did the survey, the initial survey back in 2010 for the present owner. Unfortunately, due to some procurement hiccups, I wasn't able to get vendor compliance, and about 3.5 months later, we just said, you know what, we can't really wait any longer. So we went ahead and went through the process and got another surveyor hired. He's been out there. The survey is just about done, the preliminary survey. And so once I have that, the application's already been filled out. We're going to send the application and the plans to planning. Planning will then assign us a subdivision number, at which time I'll write a letter to DLNR. They've already indicated in previous correspondence that they're willing to work with the county on this acquisition, even though there's a violation that they understand we're buying it to preserve it. So we're going to try to work on both things at the same time, and we're confident that once we get them to cooperate, we can hopefully get the survey done in the next 3 to 6 months, and then finally move forward with the acquisition. So that's the plan. So we'll see how it goes. That's about it.
Okay, any questions? Thank you so much. Let's move on to the Office of Corporation Counsel's report.
But for the responses to Ms. Heck, that's all I have to, at this point in time.
Okay. But,
Unless there's specific questions.
well, will you be doing some of the research on the questions that just came up in this discussion?
I believe the one question that was posed was regarding the
Just
deadline.
timing.
Yeah, the timing for the RFPs, and I'll be happy to look at that and report at the next meeting.
Great, great. Under Chairperson's report, I want to, I was really alarmed to see that we're going to lose 0-1 from our commission here.
Does it require unanimous vote? We all say
Yeah, say no.
Those guys, not me.
So Alex, could you explain what happened here? Why?
Yes.
Sorry, I think Bill would be better to explain.
respond to that?
Yeah, it was more like a review by Corporation Counsel that prompted this. So I think, are you familiar with that?
With what?
The vacancies, the term changes. I think it started from, it's not when you come in, you were filling someone else's position. So it actually, it wouldn't start from when you were sworn into office, the 5 years. It started from whoever's position you were filling.
So each district has a time frame.
Yeah.
And then whoever fills, no matter when you fill that time frame, it has an expiration date on another.
Well, yeah, so basically that's what it was. And, you know, they reviewed all the boards and commissions and they called, you know, they let me know, oh, hey, you know, your term dates for all your commissioners, some have changed, some haven't, but most of them did, actually. So unfortunately, we're losing two this year.
That feels like shock.
Yes.
So it's dramatic.
So, yeah, that was the situation for the new term dates.
So we're losing two and we already have one vacancy.
We apologize to the male members of.
Yes.
This is true.
So hopefully the county will be soliciting actively some replacements for these folks in the meantime. We are going to hold you to the 90-day carryovers.
Yes. So we will hold over for 90 days, and if any of you know anyone in the districts that are vacant, you know,
So they
let
can
us
be here
know.
through March then?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Oh,
they will be
premature then.
You guys should pack 6 meetings into those 3 months.
The whole year and. But we certainly do appreciate both of your services over the years, and we just thought we would have
Can I make a
you're over a
comment?
little bit longer. Yes.
I really enjoyed serving on this commission. I thought it would be a boring commission.
Well, that's a lot.
It turned out
You didn't notice
to be quite exciting, and I look forward to the meetings. And when I came in, there wasn't any purchases in my area, Puna area, and that was kind of why I started serving, because I wanted to see who there. So precious land in Puna, and the price is right for most of them. The prices are pretty down, so I wanted to get active in that. And we're on our way with Poliki, and And we rated, the wild haikus as #1 this year, so I feel like I've done some representation for Puna.
That's great. We tried to buy a couple Puna properties, but the owners weren't cooperative.
Yeah.
And
Not all Puna people are cooperative.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments before we go into new business? Does anyone need to take a break before we move into review of our report? Or can we just move right into discussion? Okay, we're gonna move right into discussion of the report. We do have the draft before us, and I want to just take it page by page and go through this. So, anyone have any comments on the cover letter? The mayor?
Do we need to acknowledge that our members are leaving sooner than we thought? Cyril and Steve? I don't think that's in here. I think they've done that in the past. I remember when members would leave the commission.
Okay, we would put it that then,
Maybe that's opening a can of worms.
what?
Well, just that acknowledgement.
No, we can easily insert, the commission would like to acknowledge the services of, and we should name what district they were from for the last,
Yeah.
oh, we can't say for how long.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
And at the same time, we can add a sentence saying something about, we hope that the commissioners will be appointed to fill all of our vacant positions in a timely manner.
There you go, there you go. Okay. Yeah, maybe before the one where we're acknowledging all the good work out.
Right, so after the paragraph that starts during and before that, I would be remiss.
Yeah, maybe just the sentence.
Can you get that, Alex? Just probably a two sentence acknowledgement.
As far as the cover letter, that's up to you, right? We don't have to approve the cover letter, so
No, but I think that's a
maybe
good,
you can
good
work with
addition,
Alex
yeah.
to insert appropriate comments.
Regarding that,
Okay, on to the introduction, which I had quite a few comments on the introduction because there were some things that were a little different than I expected them to be. We have some repeating things which start actually in the first paragraph of the introduction. After the line that, actually after the first sentence, we had a prioritized list to the mayor. I would recommend that we take the rest of that sentence out, referring to, I crossed it out so effectively I can hardly read it. Appendix, I think it says, there's a question mark, for detailed descriptions and maps, because that appears also on page 2, the last sentence after property name and with tax map keys, there's a paragraph. It appears there already. The next one's not there.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
so I'm recommending that we take out the sentence is submitting this 2013 annual report and prioritize list to the mayor, period. And the rest of that sentence be eliminated. Any other changes to that first paragraph? Okay, on to the second paragraph. We had the same issue with this one. We've got some of this also appears on page 3, the very top sentence that appears on page 3 of the draft. The commission is including an acquisition status report that provides funding sources used for acquisitions, the appendix, whatever. I would suggest that that come off of the top of page 3 and remain on page 1.
I'm a little bit lost here. You're on the second paragraph?
I'm on the second paragraph of the introduction on page 1. And we have repeated ourselves ourselves by saying that proviso list of properties that were acquired includes the different funding sources used for acquisition. We put that in twice. We have that in that location, and we also have it on our draft at the very top sentence on page 3.
So you're suggesting we take off from the sentence starting, the commission has also?
No, I'm suggesting that we leave it in this paragraph and remove it from page 3.
Oh, I thought you said the opposite thing, so
No.
removing, okay.
So we take it
Yeah,
off
I follow
page 3 and we leave it where it is here.
You're talking about this?
That one,
sentence?
yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes.
That-
Does
that
everyone
makes sense.
follow
Yeah,
where
yeah.
I am on?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so we're taking it off of there. Is that okay with everyone? How's that now reads? Okay, paragraph 3, I have another suggestion here. Since most of my suggestions are right at the front of this, so don't go, oh my gosh, this is gonna take forever. I'm suggesting that we eliminate the first and second sentences in paragraph 3. So I'm suggesting we eliminate, in addition, the commission refined the assessment form with criteria to receive and prioritizes suggestion forms from the community for lands worthy of preservation and/or public access. All submittals from the inception of the commission have been put into the comprehensive list, appendix, whatever. I am suggesting that we remove those two sentences and instead put appendix, whatever it is a list of all properties that have been submitted since the inception of the commission. And then the following sentence would still be there. This list attests to the informed participation of community groups. The first two sentences just really didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So I'm simplifying it, the language. Is that all right with everyone?
So we take out the first two sentences.
First two sentences are gone, and instead, we're going to replace those with a sentence that says appendix and whatever it's going to be, is a list of all properties that have been submitted since the inception of the commission, period. And then the third sentence remains there, but it's now the second sentence. So this list attests to the informed participation, keep that sentence. Okay, anyone have any changes to paragraph 4?
I had a question, but I have misplaced my little note as to what I was going to do with it. Let me just read through it again so I refresh my memory. It just seems awful wordy somehow. Instead of all this impacted the commission, just say 2 major charter amendments. I'm sorry, I don't know what I was thinking. I have it marked for change, but I can't recall exactly what the change was that I was going to suggest.
Just start the second sentence, eliminate the first sentence, say in 2012, 2 charter amendments are approved by.
So, yeah, something like that I think is what I was thinking, just take,
Leave out
the second
impact
sentence
and-
starts, 2 charter amendments were approved, and I don't think we need this whole first sentence thing.
So can-
Like you said,
yeah.
you can just take off the
Well,
first sentence and put in 2012.
2 charter
Wait,
amendments were
But
approved.
2012 is not the year we're reporting
No.
on, so why are we putting this in? And maybe that was my actual question.
I think it's because
That's what I'm.
Debbie wanted to insert this because in fact it did impact us in 2013, so she just wanted to highlight it.
But didn't we report this in 2012? I think we mentioned it in 2012, did we not? We're reporting on 2013, so I just...
I don't see it in the introduction from 2012.
Seems to me like it's, you know, a year late to be reporting it.
Yeah, because the amendment would have been approved in November of 2012, and our report was already finalized by that time to go out in December, so it couldn't have been mentioned again.
Well, the rationale, I believe, was due to the fact that it did impact in 2013.
Okay, okay, so, but it still seems awkward somehow.
Well, suggestions, I've heard that we want to just eliminate the first sentence and maybe just start with, let's say, 2 charter amendments were approved in 2012 by 65%.
We don't have to go into the 65% and all that, do we? Just say the 2 charter amendments that were passed have impacted us now, and so such and such, rather than all that wordiness is what I was thinking. I mean, why do we need to say 65%? If it didn't make 65%, it wouldn't have passed. You know, I mean, it seems kind of like
That's true.
unnecessary.
It's a little redundant, yeah. It was approved, it was approved.
Yeah, so approved in 2012.
2 charter amendments approved in 2012 impacted the commission in 2013 or something.
So do we want to say what those amendments were, I guess is the main point.
I think so.
And then the next one would be the first amendment, blah, blah, the second amendment.
Okay,
This is that first,
Combining the first 2 sentences,
Yeah.
that's what you want to do.
so.
yeah, I wasn't talking about the last part, that's
Can
introductory.
you say how that would read then, that combined?
2
sentence?
charter amendments approved in 2012.
Impacted the
How about
commission in
this?
2013?
In 2012, the Hawaii County voters approved 2 charter amendments which impacted this commission.
You're very good, very good.
Okay.
The first charter amendment created by.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Good.
Okay, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 6th paragraph then, I guess it's fifth. This year, commission, is that fine with everyone? A listing of commission members,
Either that or including in this report
where?
on the last sentence.
I
Because
don't-
this year.
Yeah, to say this year the commission decided to, I don't think that's necessary, just say, like Steve said, it's included in this report or,
It's an
Is an
appendix describing.
appendix describing the process?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, commission members, fine, property tax numbers, fine. Okay, so I'm looking at the paragraph that is right after the list of property name and tax map keys. Any changes to that? Okay, moving on to status of properties on past prioritized lists. Any changes to paragraph 1?
I'm sorry, I'm a little slow on
Oh,
the
sure.
uptake here. That first paragraph, are we sure it's gonna be appendix 2, or are we gonna look at the appendix numbers?
I believe,
It's usually always appendix.
yeah, and
Yeah, no, I mean, are the numbers, are they consistent, or have we changed something that's gonna make a different appendix number?
Alex, can you answer that?
I just wanna, the point I wanna make is that when we're putting it together and doing the final, the appendix number needs to agree with whatever we actually have.
Well, we'll be ordering the appendix later on in the
Oh,
meeting.
okay.
Yeah,
so-
when we get to
so
the
we'll-
end,
Yeah,
then we'll
so
see.
then we can pick that up.
You know, for the first sentence, how would we do it in developing its 2013 prioritized list? So we're changing that to its, take out for this annual report. We just go, comma, the commission considered property submitted.
And it really should be submitted on the suggestion forms rather than in the suggestion forms. So,
I like that too.
so in developing its,
It's 2013 prioritized list, comma, the commission considered property submitted on the.
It's with no apostrophe.
Oh, see, I would fail that test, I had it possibly on that.
Okay, any other changes to, so we sort of backed up to the paragraph that's right out under the listing of properties in TMKs. Okay, so, status of properties on past prioritized lists, I think we had no changes to the first paragraph. Okay, paragraph 2, any changes or additions? Okay, and then we're taking out that sentence that is currently at the very top of page 3, because it's on page 1. We're now looking at comprehensive list of properties submitted by the public. Again, we'll fix that appendix when we get there. Schedule of meetings. Anything under commission meetings? Okay, and suggestion forms, anything in the first paragraph, which has basically the website. The second paragraph, I have a suggestion on the last sentence, the sentence that says, 2 were not assessed since a resolution, and I think it should be, since a resolution authorizing acquisition had already been approved by the Hawaii County Council. So I'm just moving, authorizing, or their acquisition, but authorizing acquisition just moved up after resolution had already been approved by the Hawaii County Council. Okay, assessment criteria form, anything on that sentence?
Can you change that has to have?
Had, they had already been approved.
Oh, had, right.
Okay, assessment criteria form. Commission and community recommendations and concerns.
I'm wondering if we should say something a little different about the concern about long-term management. I mean, before, in past years, it was just a major concern, but then after the charter was amended, it's a slightly different take on it. Because it says that the concerns that long-term maintenance, management and maintenance should be addressed, and it has been addressed. So we still have concerns and interests, but it's not like we need to do something about long-term maintenance and management, because it is in process already. So to me, this is kind of, I mean, it's what we said last year, I think. Or the year before. And so I think we should, you know, I mean, our concerns now are a little bit different from what they were. At one time, it was just like, well, we're buying these properties, what are we gonna do? And now it's, we know, and we just need to refine it and pursue it and get it going.
So what are you suggesting?
See, the funding, the formal funding process has been, so I would knock off the commission recommends that a formal funding process be established, because that's already done.
Regarding maintenance.
So I would knock that off. And then, I'm not sure quite how I would word our current concern that, you know, we're, commission and public have expressed concerns regarding long-term management and maintenance procedures or something. It should be addressed, it's being addressed already, so, but we're still concerned, but in a different way. Let's see
So
how
we're
I
more
say that.
concerned with the way the implementation.
Yeah, concern regarding implementation of management and maintenance.
Well, should we be specific or just
Or
X it out?
just not put it in?
If we can summarize the earlier discussion that we had.
Commission is formulating.
Well, I think the
Process.
concern is that the community be actively involved in the maintenance fund.
Yeah,
If
we're still
we even put that in
concerned.
there, either we delete the whole paragraph or we address, I think, the
Yeah,
concern
one or the other.
regarding that we would like to see that the maintenance fund, it sounds like we got our answer to work on it, but I mean, do we have concerns as a
Do we
group
need
or
to
not?
put it in the report, I guess that's the question at this point then? Do we
Well,
need to put it in?
Yeah, I don't
I mean,
wanna,
it's still a
I don't wanna
concern,
cause
but,
stink, but but I think it is something that needs to be addressed, so I don't.
I think it still is a recommendation.
Yeah. So, it just needs to be reworded then.
but we can take off that last sentence, that a formal
Yeah,
process be
yeah.
established to support management plans and long. So, you're saying leave that in?
No,
To me, it
delete that last
implies
sentence.
that- But Marilyn said leave it in.
Well, because we're urging them to come up with a formal RFP process or something like that, because they're working on it. What did we call it earlier in the blue thing?
Why don't we, is it?
Stewardship grant.
Yeah, is it a collective, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but do we have a collective thought that we would just like to see the county encourage?
Expedite their plans for
Stewardship.
Involving,
grants.
yeah, okay,
writing the process, I mean, that they,
there you go, expedite
Get
that,
the
so the
thing
community
written
can
up
be
and-
more involved, and the reason
You
is
know.
because we want to facilitate greater community participation.
but our concern, because we really don't have anything to do with the management and maintenance, is that we're still concerned as part of the whole picture that the county, expedites its plans and procedures and gets them all written and.
Let me make a suggestion,
Something
which
like
might not go far enough to, but I'm combining the first and second sentences. The commission and the public have expressed concerns that long-term management and maintenance include community and government participation.
Absolutely, yeah, do we need to be more
That's-
specific about the funding source?
I think that's sufficient.
Yeah, okay, that's fine, yeah.
Could you read that again?
The commission and the public have expressed concerns that long-term management and maintenance include community and government participation.
How about upfront? No, seriously, that all the conversations about stewardship really should be initiated. I think,
Do we need to say
Simultaneously with the community.
government, because that goes without saying, just say include community participation transparently or something.
oh, I didn't mean to say there's lack of transparency, I just meant in terms of timing. I think Clayton's incredibly transparent, he's been very forthcoming, I mean, even in other communications. I think it's just a matter of timing, where do you involve the community? And I think that for the most part, we always do better if we outreach sooner than later.
So where are you with what I had?
I like
Well,
what
you're
you
the
said.
articulate one.
I like it if we left it just exactly what Marilyn said.
Oh, go
Which I
ahead.
think is, the commission and the public have expressed concerns that long-term management and maintenance include, and she said government and community involvement, but I wouldn't even put the government, include community involvement,
Include community participation.
or participation.
Can we do something about timing? Because I think that's really the issue. I have every understanding that they intend to involve the community. The hope is just to initiate conversations sooner than later.
Expedited.
Not expedited, but,
In other words, I don't know.
Remember,
Before,
this isn't the next steps part, this is the recommendations and concerns.
well,
So our concern is that it be done quickly and then involve community. That was our main
Well,
gist, I think.
Can I say
You
something?
take out the word
Certainly.
address.
I just want to reiterate that there's been extensive community involvement now. There has.
But we're talking about the process,
Funding,
the
funding.
formal, official process that's
You're talking about the maintenance fund? Because
Yeah.
this is just talking about community involvement. And the family, Kawal, we have 3 families involved, and a stewardship group. There's extensive community involvement now, right, going on.
well, then that needs to be acknowledged as well, then.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're talking about community involvement, that's happening. If you're talking about being paid through the PONC maintenance fund, then you need to make that specific, because.
If this commission has concerns regarding allocation of the maintenance funds monies, then state that up front.
Yeah, that's
That
what
our concern isn't the involvement of the community.
No.
No, it's,
Oh, yeah.
it's involving
Yeah, I mean,
the
it's not our
stewardship
job to
program
do it, but we're
with the
concerned
maintenance
that,
fund
yeah.
monies.
And exactly that, and then just the timing piece. That it sounds like there may be contracts ready to let, and in the future, it'd be great if the community were consulted before contracts were even let, to see if that's what they even want right away, so.
Okay, so let me give this another whirl. The commission and the public have expressed concerns that have expressed concerns that the use of the maintenance fund include community participation.
Can you do that one more time?
I'm not sure, but I'll try. The commission and public have expressed concerns that the maintenance funds should be, include community participation. That's right.
Well, I think that's the intention. I think we're talking about timing.
Include the involvement of community groups.
But Clayton did say he has every intention of
Yeah.
involving the stewardship
But
program
it's-
come next
But if
August.
we're
But
reporting,
still-
we're just reporting that
Yeah,
there's
it's still a
concerns about it.
concern
We're not
for
saying
this
he's not gonna do it.
No, I understand that, but your concern is basically that he didn't do it now. Because he's already committed to doing it.
So you're saying our concern is more the timing than
Your
the-
concern is that it hasn't happened fast
Yeah.
enough. That's really
Well,
what your concern is.
I'm double concerned too. I think it's not just the stewardship, but that's not implemented. My concern is that there's a bunch of professional contracts that are gonna be let. And I mean, I can only speak for particularly that I'm passionate about. But I know that I guess the community would have loved to have known that there were gonna be people on there walking and that this was even gonna be happening. Because I know there's been requests out there asking for, and letters even sent, asking for participation up front in these kinds of decisions. So I don't know what the formal process is for that. We have the stewardship thing where we want the maintenance fund, we want communities involved in that timely. But if you're developing a plan, a maintenance plan or stewardship plan, I feel like one of the first things you do is you reach out to the community.
But that's exactly what we've done. I mean, at Koa is a great example of that. We had the Piki and the Napoleon families come on site. They participated in the archaeological survey.
That's true.
At extents. I mean, Bob Reckman, who we hired to do that survey, had extensive meetings and discussions with the people. So that is.
And that's my other consideration is I know you have a procurement process, but I know for a fact there's certain professionals up there that the families will just have a heart attack if they step on that land. And so how do you consider all of that?
The families have a heart attack.
Maybe
You step
getting
on
a
what?
bit
County
away
land?
from
No.
the report with this
Yeah.
discussion. What do we want to say in the
Oh,
report?
that's a different issue.
Well,
Right.
side.
Yeah,
And
I'm
just a quick question, do you feel, that the avenue or the channel in order to do that is not existent, or it may be existent and they're just not being utilized, therefore we want to encourage it?
It's both. I think that the channel for the maintenance fund is set up. We'll get a legal opinion about the timeliness. I think that we can encourage the county to do as quickly as possible with regard to the set maintenance fund. There's also so that's the stewardship grants. But the county is responsible for holding the land and stewardship, and there's aspects of that don't involve the stewardship plan, and that involve stewardship in general, of developing an overall vision for the land. And I think that before you let professional services out, that the community needs to be heard on that. Because I just feel that's important.
So in that sense, the channel does not exist and needs to be created.
Well, yeah, or it's more of a timing. I think it's just about encouraging timing,
So how would we word it for our report?
Well, let me just put this on the table. It was mentioned, alluded to that,